Another season is upon us. Freshmen arrive wide-eyed with dreams of future glory, while seniors prepare for their last chance at immortality. There are only a handful of these opportunities in a man's life, a handful of chances to distinguish yourself from the rest. It's on these fields where history is made, where legends begin and heroes triumph. Traditions tell the story of what you represent, of those that forge the legacy you uphold. When you come charging out of the tunnel, 100,000 people will be watching your every move. How you respond to that pressure is what defines you. These are the moments that reveal your toughness, your determination, and your pride. The Roughnecks on the Sooner Schooner. Ralphie charging out of the gate. And Chief Osceola planting his spear. The time has come. Your time is now.
You know, as we
My bad.
It's completely out of left field. This is why I missed you on the show, man. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. That's gonna go on the like the bloopers at the end of the season. But hey, what a beautiful night, you know, celebrating a beautiful holiday and celebrating an opportunity to talk to the American people about what we got going on in terms of asking some burning questions that you guys had in the like on Twitter and both like a bunch of other places. But I'm joined by a special guest of mine, you know, part of that college football red zone family, Colton over at O&O Sports, man. How you doing tonight, dude? It's been a while.
Dude, I'm epic. I'm legendary. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back here on the red zone with the CEO himself.
Yes, you get to be basking in the glory that is the CEO himself. What a great time to like to be alive, and really just a wonderful time to like to be here on the show here tonight. And first and foremost, before we go ahead and jump into things here, first of all, really you know, happy Memorial Day for everyone that's celebrating here in the U.S. You know, really appreciate like our military veterans that serve to make Memorial Day possible and get to enjoy some of those freedoms that we have as a country. And then, you know, of course, you know, in honor of Memorial Day, we had to jump into the mailbag because y'all had some burning questions. And, you know, as Mr. CEO himself, you know, I had to make sure that the people were taken care of. So, you know, Colton, appreciate you sitting here on the live show with us tonight. You know, you ready to kind of talk to the people here and answer some of these burning questions that we have from the audience.
Oh yeah, I mean the people better have their ears open because we're talking to you all night.
Yeah, all freaking night, allegedly. But before we go ahead and get into like the mailbag here, do a couple of favors real fast. First of all, you know, you see my guy Colton over at O&O Sports. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter and follow him on YouTube as well, because I'll say this, criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. I was telling him about it like earlier before we hopped on the live. Make sure you show him some love. I genuinely need him to we got to get him boosted up on Twitter for sure. And then, you know, if you're watching here on YouTube or if you're watching on Twitter, you know, make sure you give us that like and follow over on my Twitter account. We're on the verge of 1,800 followers. You know, great for commercial. You know, let's see if we can get above 1,800 followers for the Twitter, you know, before the end of the live show here tonight. So, you know, with that being said, my man, as we try to get ourselves recomposed real fast. Colin, you ready to talk to the people, man?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it here. And the first question was really why I wanted to have this mailbag, because I saw this in the last live show that I had on Thursday. And, I wanted to make sure that my man was taken care of. So, Billy J, like he asked in the previous live show on Thursday, he asked, the week 0 spreads, they came out on DraftKings, and was wondering if anything caught our eye and caught our attention. So, Colton, we're a little about 90 days out from the start of the college football season. Very curious if there was anything that you saw that's like, man, I want to go bet on this, or something that outright surprised you.
Well, I'm looking at them now. I don't see a ton. Virginia over NC State makes sense at -2.5. I'm looking at FanDuel. I'll go off which ones you're looking at. Okay, you're looking at DraftKings. North Carolina TCU. TCU -6.5 is I think a little bit lower than I might have it. I think TCU is probably, from a talent and coaching perspective, well ahead of North Carolina. Bobby Petrino is a cool hire for North Carolina, but I don't really like them overall still, especially with Bill Belichick. I think TCU now with Jaden Craig, who's potentially a Weapon X type of quarterback for TCU. That might be a little low, especially what happened last year where they the first quarter was pretty close, and then the rest of the game was all TCU. So,
yeah, that was so it's really interesting because I know that like the model is not as harsh like for me like on North Carolina as maybe some other folks are. Like I see like TCU like -6.5, and like the model is right about what DraftKings is showing right now. It has like TCU -7, but I mean I'm with you. I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if it ends up being a double-digit beatdown because I'm not too incredibly high on Bill Belichick at the moment. Incredible NFL coach. Should be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I mean that's a given, but college-wise, he hasn't shown anything collegiate-wise. So I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from there.
I mean, it forces you to beg the question: is college football harder to win in than the NFL?
You know what? I would say yes. Because in major college football, just looking at the power conference ranks, you have almost twice as many teams as the the NFL. I mean, less adversaries to deal with in the NFL, and there's like teams are more evenly matched. Like the gap between like the best NFL team and the worst NFL team is a lot smaller than the best like college football team and the worst team in the Power Four, like Ohio State and Purdue. Like Ohio State took Purdue to Pound Town last year, whereas the worst NFL team, like on any given day, can at least be competitive with like the Seattle Seahawks who won the Super Bowl.
That's absolutely, you're 100% correct, Jake.
But one game that actually caught my attention here was this Sacramento State and Eastern Michigan game. And I'm really hoping that it doesn't end up being a noon kickoff, because if it ends up being a noon kickoff, like everything that I'm going to say is going to be completely irrelevant. So I saw that Eastern Michigan was -8.5. And I actually thought that was a little aggressive of a number. I understand that Sacramento State, they're making the transition up to the FBS level. We're also seeing that they have a brand new head coach in Alonzo Craig as well. But then I look at Eastern Michigan on the other side, and I love Chris Creighton personally, but Eastern Michigan isn't this uber talented team in the MAC. And we just saw them last year. Like Eastern Michigan lost to Long Island, who is still at the FCS ranks. Like Sacramento State was better than Long Island last year, right? So I'm not saying that Sacramento State is going to pull this upset off like in week 0, but I'm looking at this Sacramento State team at the same time. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game, and I think it's going to come down to the last possession potentially.
I mean, I would not be surprised with that either. I mean, Eastern Michigan, I have here 8.5. I think it says that. I couldn't quite read it on your screen. But, I mean, Sacramento State, they're not awful. I'm not super high on them. I think I have them in the 3 or 4 win range this year, but it's Eastern Michigan. I love Chris Creighton. I had an awesome dynasty like 5 or 6 years ago with Eastern Michigan, won a national championship. So, I mean, that's pretty cool, but they're not the cream of the crop in the MAC. They're not the cream of the crop in the group of 6. Sacramento State definitely has a shot. 8.5 kind of indicates that they think it's going to be within single digits. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if we saw an upset there. It would be shocking because that's their first FBS game. Sacramento State isn't a roster necessarily or coaching staff maybe right now that people are super high on. So if they came in immediately, won that game, more than a touchdown underdog, that'd be a statement. It'd be a statement win for the Hornets.
Yeah, the Hornets. That's their name, and it will set them up well for when they play in the FBS debut bowl later this year when they play like North Dakota State. That's a game that you gotta have. Like playing against your fellow FBS newcomer. Like if you're not playing well against Eastern Michigan, then you're not gonna have a really good time at all with North Dakota State. And speaking of them, I did see their spot as well. North Dakota State listed as a 10-point favorite over Jacksonville State. And I'm honestly not surprised by that, to be honest with you. I think North Dakota State, I know they're a newcomer, but, they're a completely different animal here. Like we're talking about, 11 of the last 15 FCS national championships went to Fargo. This is going to be in the Fargo Dome. And I think North Dakota State is frankly a much better football team, and they have a real shot to win the Mountain West in year one. So when I saw that double-digit spread for North Dakota State, that one wasn't 100% shocking for me either. I actually thought it could have been a little higher.
Yeah, North Dakota State's a team that's going to be built to win immediately, unlike a Sacramento State who's probably going to need a few years before they can get to the top of the MAC. Just because of, they're like an Iowa, essentially, of the FCS, but with some pretty solid talent on top of it. Not that Iowa's untalented, but Iowa isn't known for their talent in the Power 4 level. North Dakota State, I mean, they won like 10 of the last 11 championships or something crazy. They're a team that's been built to make the jump for a while now. Another one that I was looking at, though, is Stanford -3 over Hawaii. It's at Stanford this year. They lost this game to Hawaii last year in Hawaii, so just a field goal favorite at home. Could we see it again? Could we see Hawaii go 2-0 versus Stanford in the past 2 years?
Yeah, that one's going to be a really fascinating game to watch. I think that's going to be one of the more intriguing games I think we see in week number 0. Brand new head coach as well. Travis Pritchard's taking over for the Stanford Cardinal with Andrew Luck running things as their version of Mr. CEO. I do think that they're at least going to be better in the trenches this year because that was a huge problem for the Cardinal last year. They were just horrific in the trenches, and it just bled into everything else offensively. I think they're going to be confident enough in the trenches and the fact that this is going to be at home as well. I think Stanford at least gets to get back, but I think, like you mentioned, I think it's going to be a close game. But I think Stanford takes over with the advantage that they're probably going to have at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, if Stanford looks much improved in year one. I think they were kind of due for that. They went through last year with Frank Reich as their interim, which, I mean, like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It obviously didn't work out super well. So it could be a matter of Stanford just, turning it on, flipping the switch and being solid. But I think the -3 at home versus a group of 5 team in Hawaii, albeit a very good one. I'm not trying to diss Hawaii here. They're very good.
Yeah, and Hawaii can win the Mountain West too.
It's just like, a home game you'd like to see at least a touchdown favorite against a team that's going to be less talented than you. I would think, but it is Stanford. Stanford hasn't been very good in like the better half of a decade now.
Yeah, and speaking of like seeing it being like a touchdown favorite, I was actually a little surprised, and this was the last game that really caught my attention. Memphis and UNLV, like that one has UNLV -3. I was a little surprised with that because what that's telling me is that DraftKings believes that even with Memphis traveling across the country to play this UNLV's team with a brand new coaching staff as well, Charles Huff is taking over, that these teams are basically equal, but UNLV being favored because this game is happening in Las Vegas. I do think that because Dan Mullen has a little bit more continuity, I'm intrigued by Jackson Arnold as well. Not that Memphis isn't going to be any good. I think they're going to be really good in the American as well. But I think there's more questions with the Tigers as well. I was actually surprised that was only seeing UNLV as a field goal favorite. I thought that would be a little bit closer to a touchdown, to be honest.
Yeah, I could have saw that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a home game for UNLV. They're consistently one of the better teams in the group of 5 for the past 2 years now. 1 year with Odom last year with Dan Mullen. And Mullins, I mean, he's been the quarterback whisperer. Last year, took Anthony Calandria, turned him into a Mountain West Player of the Year. Could we see the same for that Jackson Arnold? I think they're kind of banking on that and having UNLV as probably a top 3 group of 6 team in 2026. Memphis, though, they just have so much talent. I feel like they have a talent whisperer now in Charles Huff, who's been able to do that at lesser schools, which sounds disrespectful, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Southern Miss, not perennially known for being awesome and being super resource rich, but Memphis definitely more so. And I think with the talent now, with the coaching now, they have Aaron Nolan, Marcus Stokes at quarterback, I think going to battle it out. Probably won't know who the quarterback will be, but I mean, that's a cool battle. That's one very, very sought after prospect out of high school. Was kind of bounced around. Was it Ohio State, South Carolina, now Memphis? I think obviously there's untapped potential there. Marcus Stokes, one of the better, I believe, Division II quarterbacks. And we saw, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but Trinidad Chambliss, you know?
Yeah. And the thing about Marcus Stokes as well is that, like, he comes from a really good West Florida football program. I mean, they recently made the jump to the FCS, and, like, they were so well respected that they were in some post-spring top 25s at the FCS level, even though West Florida has been around for 5 minutes at that particular level of football. So, I mean, like, Marcus Stokes, like, is absolutely a dog, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he wins that starting job. But, I mean, like, it's some unproven talent at Memphis, and I think it's a little bit less proven for Charles Huff, at least very early on in the season, than it is for Dan Mullen and his guys coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest question mark for UNLV this year is going to be the defense, because, I mean, last year, definitely to open the season, it was a lot shakier than towards the end. Even towards the end, it wasn't great. So it's going to be a matter of, can they be more consistent on that side of the ball? And I think, I mean, I had UNLV at number 1 in my group of 6 rankings in post-spring, probably closer to top 3 now. It's going to shift. I'll have my final ones at some point, but definitely in that range. So I'm not surprised at all that they're the favorite at home.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating, but it just goes to show, I think there's going to be a lot of intriguing games in week 0. It's going to be one of the better ones that we have in quite some time. And I'm just very excited to have some actual college football to watch, instead of like just watching highlights like in the middle of the night, just praying for my sweet prince to come back like in the middle of June. But yeah, with that being said, hey, really appreciate you guys like chilling in with us and listening to us. If you've been enjoying the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on Twitter, if you haven't followed, hit that follow button. We're on the version of 1800 on Twitter right now. Very good tequila commercial. So if we can get to 1800 before the end of the live show tonight, that would really warm up my cold dead heart. Then make sure you go check out his stuff below as well. I would truly appreciate that too. O&O Sports, really good friend of the program, obviously, part of that Red Zone family, right? So with that being said, next question that we have here tonight actually does come from Twitter, and it is the Shula Bowl podcast. Some FIU lovers asking some FIU ball, best FIU Vice uniform so far, which implies that they're going to come out with some new heat this year. I hope that's true, because I think them FIU boys, like, maybe they haven't been the best program, but they put some good unis out. And this is what I settled on. This right here is just an absolute thing of beauty here. The black with the pink and the blue, it was just an absolute chef's kiss. It just feels right, man. Like that's been my go-to favorite. But Colin, I didn't know if you had a like a go-to favorite just in terms of some FIU like jerseys. I know they put out some good combos over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the things they're known for. Football might be secondary to jersey. Just kidding. But from what I took a gander at, I really my eye got attracted to the 2024 Vice U, if you want to Google that. I didn't send you that, but it's a all white, which, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with that. Icy white with the pink accent, as they're known for the Vice, with the baby blue numbers and letters. And then on the helmet, it's like I don't even know what type of script that is, but it's like the old cinema script with the blue, like an 80s vibe. Pretty fire.
Yeah,
pretty fire.
Listen, I saw these too. Like I was looking through it, like man, like it just does something for me. Like I don't know what it was, like just seeing like the black jerseys, like man, that's a jersey that's so prideful. Like that's gonna get Mr. Worldwide to fill out his contractual obligation to this Florida International like program. Still waiting for that FIU anthem from Mr. Worldwide. What are we doing? What are we actually doing here?
I don't know. I mean, Mr. Worldwide's got other obligations apparently. He is worldwide.
Yeah, definitely is worldwide as his name suggests. But man, like it doesn't matter like what FIU's like jersey is going to look like or how they're going to look on the field this year. But I'm going to be excited to see this team play because I always love seeing their jersey combo. So definitely want to show love to the like the FIU folks that tune into the program. Really appreciate it. These were my second favorites. I almost went with these myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that especially the helmet decal. That I think put it over the edge for me. I just like that font.
Yeah, I mean, like that one would put me over the edge if FIU would send me like a helmet like that. But we'll have to wait and see.
Tickets
or tickets. Like my wife would love a trip down to Miami personally, but that's just me. So we'll just I'll let Willie Simmons decide that. I'm sure he'll be very intrigued by the call. But let's go ahead and keep it rolling here. Before we say goodbye to the FIU Vice jerseys, we love to see them, as well as other great uniform combos that are out there. Obviously, this would come from somebody that's usually on the show, but he's not here tonight because I thought we had someone who had a love for the game. But I guess this is what we get for having someone that doesn't watch the games.
Boo!
I know I can't believe it either. But hypothetically speaking. If you had a kid, what's the verse environment you want your baby boy to experience once he's of a proper age, of course. So
meaning newborn, because there's never it can't get too early when it comes to experiencing peak college football.
I agree with you. I remember like as soon as he got delivered when he was like sitting in like the cradle in the hospital bed while we're waiting in the hospital waiting for my wife to recover. First video I showed him, that Tavon Austin highlight tape.
I mean, that's peak. I mean, that's one of the first things everybody should experience in life. I know I had to wait like 15 years before I got to see it. So it's a travesty. Yeah, 15 years of just being a not peak idiot.
Just being completely lost. Listen, I tried my best to raise his next generation right. Got to you only had to wait 15 minutes, thankfully. But yeah, I'm just curious, man. Like, where are we going? If if it was you had to decide.
Are we going subjective or just like aura?
I mean, whatever you want to do, man. If you want to aura farm, I'm definitely open to some aura farming. If you want to go subjective, whatever tickles your pickle, my man.
I mean, the heart's telling me right smack dab on this on Tom Osborne Field, but that's for later on. That's for a more advanced, I think, studious, really like a legendary. So it might not be viable as a first option, but I mean, it's hard to pass up Lincoln Memorial. I would say, oh man, that is tough. I would probably, if we're talking small, I would pass up Tiger Stadium night game because that might be a little too, violent. It might be a little too raucous for that. I would maybe the Rose Bowl. I think it would probably be between the Rose Bowl and Neyland, but then again, you could argue Neyland's also very violent and raucous. So,
yeah, and I know how like LSU can be, and I think like Josh Payton mentioned it on the show as well. Like when LSU like gets down and it gets down to like in a hurry, like it could like the energy in that stadium can change to where it's like as you mentioned, it's a very toxic like energy. Although I definitely want to get a trip down to the to the Bayou eventually. But my boy's got to be a little bit at least high school age, before we like contemplate that trip.
Got that tall.
Probably about your size, like at the very least, like give or take. I don't know what that's
5 foot 250. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Philly J also with an awesome shout in the chat. Boone, North Carolina in October. I want to do that this year. I want to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely like open to doing that. That's an incredible environment, and I wish it would get some more love because App State has been down the last few years. But that's an incredible environment. I love their backdrop as well. Just right in the Appalachian Mountains. I mean, it's really so incredibly hard to beat. So I mean, I can't go wrong with that. So me personally, and it's funny because I'm sitting with an 18-month-old myself right now. So a little bit of background. So my son loves to show Bluey. Okay, that is his go-to show right now. So I'm thinking, what's some good dogs? What's some good huskies out there? And so I was thinking about like, man, like a trip to Yukon would be really fascinating. You got the husky mascot. Like pretty like friendly experience. I'm also thinking about like Kennesaw State Stadium perhaps they got the owl mascot, another somewhat friendly animal. Very
Underrated as well. I've stood on that field. It's not big, it's not super grandiose, but it's cool. It's a nice stadium.
Yeah, because I mean, like I know Kennesaw State's theirs right now is the smallest in the FBS from a seating capacity standpoint, but I actually don't mind that. Like I would rather have like a smaller stadium that you could fill up really well than maybe have a bigger stadium that maybe you can only fill 20 to 25% of the seats. Like it does, even though it's probably the same number of people, it does something just in terms of the energy and the vibes, or some would even say the aura of a stadium, So it's like I think about Kennesaw State, I think about UConn. When he gets a little bit older, maybe a trip to Nippert, one of the few on-campus stadiums that we still got. They got a Bearcat mascot as well.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're talking training wheels, you definitely not Nippert, but you definitely named some good ones.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But that's a few that I would go to. But I'm very curious to hear what you. What
is that comment?
trying to hit up the like the teal field out in coastal Carolina, which listen, like surf turf. Yeah, I'll be down for some surf turf. Maybe not the like the latter part, like for the after game, but definitely will be down for some.
Yeah, and I mean, just being from around these parts, we might could skip Dirty Myrtle. We could go to some other spots, but I mean, not bad if we did end up going to Dirty Myrtle. It's definitely worse options, but
yeah, and they actually have. Yeah, and they have some really good high school track meets down there because I've been down there a few times for track in high school. Like they have some really high quality track meets, especially for us Midwestern folk, getting away from the all the snow that we somehow still get in like in March and in the April timeframe. But with that last thing being said here, last question that we had here tonight, at least for right now, is from Wishbone Football. One of the newer followers of the of CFB Red Zone. Really appreciate it. And I can see the dread in your face already, my man. Like with the rumored changes of going to a 2014 format, do you feel that it would ultimately push through, or will common sense take over and leave it at a 12 or 14 team format?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of common sense. I think it's going to, regardless of whether we believe it's common sense, which I do. I think we should stay at 12 or 14. I think the statement that came out today from Sankey saying it's, a 24 team is unlikely next year. I think most likely what's going to happen if it doesn't go straight to 24, maybe the year after next, is that they have a rendezvous, I guess, at 14 or 16, and then just kind of settle with that for now, and then look to expand again probably in another 1 or 2 years after that. I think expansion is inevitable. Just to answer the question, whether it be to 24, it looks like that's probably the most likely. If there was betting odds, I'd probably put it as a favorite over a 14 or a 16. But I could definitely see it if we go through another off season of, oh, we want to expand. Oh, we don't want to expand. Oh, ESPN says no. Oh, Big 12 says yes. And just have these arguments between these commissioners, between these ADs. I could see it being settled at 16, which is a better outcome than 24. But I think anything past 12 is honestly loss. But to answer the question, yes. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, because I know that this isn't even the first offseason, like in recent memory, where we've had conversations about expanding the college football playoff. We've literally had the same song and dance last offseason, right, in terms of expanding the college football playoff. Now, we didn't expand, but was that more because of it was better for the sport, or was that because the Big Ten and the SEC didn't agree? And that's why we didn't have any expansion on the playoff. It's probably the latter, to be honest with you. And again, it seems like we're in that same boat with the Big Ten wanting 24 teams and the SEC won 16. But I'm very curious to see how long the SEC is going to stand its ground on this, because it's not just the Big Ten that wants 24. It seems like every other conference, at least from the commissioner level, is saying that they want 24 teams as well. And so I look at that, and I think that the 24-team playoff is coming. Whether we like it or not, I'm with you personally. I would prefer that we stay at 12. We've seen the 12-team playoff over the last couple of years, and I think it works perfectly fine. I don't think we need to make any changes, at least in terms of the number of teams in the format, at least as of right now.
No, there's definitely things that we can address now to improve the 12 rather than just jumping the shark, times 2 and going to 24. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, but it is going to be a tug of war between the SEC and ESPN and everybody else. That's the inevitable truth. It's going to become, from the fan perspective, it's going to be, oh, you're pro SEC, you're SEC bias if you don't want to expand. I think that's a silly way to look at it, but that's probably going to be inevitable just because of how hard the SEC wants to keep their kind of monopoly over it. I don't like that they have a monopoly over it, but if there's somebody with any kind of power or say in it, fighting against it, unfortunately I have to take their side. The enemy of my enemy is my friend,
Yeah, for sure. Because we've seen this song and dance before when we were previously talking about expanding the playoff, going from 4 teams and then expanding ultimately to 12. It's just a matter of, if we expand to 24, are we going to be done at 24 for a while, or is that going to be a stepping stone for maybe to be closer to what Division III football does right now? Division III has a 40-team field, and so I think that while the 24-team format, if it was implemented correctly, I think it would be incredibly positive for our sport. If it was implemented correctly, and I'll get into how I think that should be done in a second, but I also don't think that, one, I don't trust the leadership to implement it correctly, and also I don't think that 24 is going to be, hey, we're going to stop here for a long time until a bunch of more teams are added. I think there's going to be a 24 for a few years, and then it's going to be, oh, we can add some even more games and get it to 40.
Yeah, it would be a matter of time before we heard it again. I remember back to when we expanded from 4, and it was, oh, well, 12 is the perfect number. We need to go to 12. We need to skip past 8. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then everybody who said 12 was the perfect number is now saying it's 24. So it seems like nobody's ever satisfied. It seems like, well, I say that, but there's probably a ton more support for the 12 than there is the 24 just overall. But it's still, you still hear the same talking points you heard going from 4 to 12, now going from 12 to 24. And it's just, it gives you the idea, like for any of us college football fans, it's like, do you actually care, or do you just like want to watch more football? Which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just once you introduce all these things, it's subtraction by addition once you get to a certain point. I would argue with how we have the current implementation of the 12 team, with how we have the committee, with who we have in charge, anything past 12 is subtraction by addition. I understand there's probably ways that it could work. I just don't see that I don't see there's any way with who is in charge, meaning who makes the decisions and who has to react to the decisions that are made. There's just no positive outcome other than just, oh, well, we get an extra round of playoff games. It's like, that's cool if you really like the playoffs. I like football. I like college football. I like college football from week 0. I like college football from January to December. I like it in May as much as I do in October.
Yeah.
So for us, it can definitely come up short.
Yeah, because the thing that I'm looking at when it comes to the 2014 playoff, and it's not just that we're going to lose conference championship games from it, which I would be a little bit devastated about, to be honest, because I really enjoy watching conference championship weekend, regardless of whether it's the like the Big Ten title game or whether it's like from a smaller conference like the Sun Belt or the MAC. I really love watching like conference championship weekend. And if we expanded to 24, like that would be a byproduct of what we would lose. We would lose that conference championship. But another entity that I think we would lose as well, and I haven't really seen it talked about as much, like in this whole discourse about this playoff expansion, is really what would happen to bowl season. I think going to 24 teams, I think it would effectively kill bowl seasons. I'm going to keep it real with you because if you think like the opt-outs are bad now in a 12-team format, like right now, like in the 12-team format, most of the bowl games that you see, while I really enjoy watching bowl games, we hardly see two teams at full strength playing each other in bowl season. Injuries withstanding, most of the time, you have key players on one side or the other, either opt out, like to prepare for the NFL draft, or opt out because they're getting ready to enter in the transfer portal. And so if you think it's bad in a 12-team playoff, it would be so much worse in a 24-team playoff. I think that would effectively kill bowl season as well, which unless we decide to move that into the spring, which I think there's a way to make that happen, and it would be fun for us to enjoy in the springtime. I don't really see a way for bowl season to remain relevant alongside a 2014 playoff.
Yeah, and it's so tough, the bowl season conversation, because it feels like it's just too far gone. It's hard to reel it back into what it once was. I think even if we add more incentives, like if there's some sort of governing structure that could guarantee better payouts or better, I don't know, incentives to make bowl games, then it could get back. I don't know if there's any realistic chance that happens. I feel like the most likely thing that will happen if we do expand to the playoffs eventually, I don't think it would happen next year if we expanded next year, would be adopting the college basketball type of format where you have obviously the main March Madness, I think now it's 72 team playoff, but it would be how they have that main playoff, and then they have the NIT, they have the Crown. I think you'll see just other tournaments pop up between, like if it was last year a Notre Dame who just got left out, say, oh, we don't need the normal playoff. We're going to do the college football Crown playoff against BYU, against I don't know. I can't even remember off the top of my head who was Vanderbilt, against these types of teams, these like second tier, just outside the playoff teams. And then we could see that tournament style, that like 4-team, 2-game or 3-game tournament style be adopted over bowl season. I think that could be cool. Although if you're arguing the importance of a bowl game versus just some other tournament, I mean, it's not that much more important. You could argue it might be better for TV. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I think that's potentially something. But in terms of bowl season as we know it, it's hard to put what is the phrase?
Emphasis.
Put something back in the
jar? Back in the bag.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. It's hard to reel it back in from what we already see, where it's just random teams that we saw. Who was it? Yeah, it was TCU and USC look like two completely different rosters or something, and it's like their backups are playing. It's like, I mean, that's cool for next year, but it's supposed to be the culmination of a season. It's not going to be that anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I completely agree with you, and I know you mentioned like moving it to like try to get a more incentive base to maybe encourage some of these starting level players so that we see these teams more in full strength. But something that I kind of alluded to maybe help keep bowl season alive is maybe at this point, if you go to that 2014 playoff, maybe put bowl season in the springtime. And what that will do, because we've seen this as well with the spring games as well. If there's been a decline in attendance, it's gone to a point where like some programs are choosing to have their spring games behind closed doors or not have a spring game as well. And that used to be one of the connecting fabrics for a sport, like just in terms of maybe like a young fan who normally wouldn't be able to afford to attend a game during the season. Like they can come and check out the team like in the springtime and that's a way for a fan to get more invested like into the program. But now that we're starting to see those spring games go away, I think moving the bowl games possibly to the springtime would be a good substitute for that. And what it would do is, instead of having it very scripted to where people would have no idea what's going on in the spring game, like it would basically act as a preseason game, and you could at least like get a better idea of what your team is going to look like. And it would be a good opportunity. Like if you wanted to like play an FCS game in the season, you could play that FCS game in the springtime instead of playing them during the actual regular season. Because to be honest with you, like who's playing, like there's, from a strength of schedule standpoint, there is no benefit to playing an FCS team. There's
no, not at all. No.
And so I'm looking at that as like, listen, if you want to play a spring game or like an FCS team, do it in the springtime, not when the season actually counts. And then think about it from the TV network perspective. And, like that's usually a dirty word around here. But, that's usually the only way things get done is if the TV executives actually like it, unfortunately, is you get an extra 70 to 100 games of inventory in the springtime of college football.
No, yeah. I mean, that definitely could take place. I'm trying to think that whole time when you were saying, I'm trying to think of like logistically how they could set that up, because you could just effectively move it, but then it's hard. You could just play an exhibition game in the spring, and then that would that count for anything? I mean, would you want to put it as your 1-0 if you play a game in March against TCU's? I don't know why I keep bringing up TCU, but it's just the team at the top of my head.
It's a real popular team tonight, man.
Go Frogs!
Go Frogs!
If Iowa State plays Minnesota in a spring game exhibition with their spring rosters, would you? And Iowa State wins, would Iowa State go into next season 1-0? I don't know if a team would want to necessarily accept that with how unregulated the spring spring practices are. Some people start in March, some people end in like June or like late May, early May. So it would be hard logistically to set that up. I think it could be a good idea just because, like you said, TVs might buy into it. I mean, who doesn't want to watch college football, especially if it's in the deadest part of the season in the middle of the spring? So
something that I thought about. And then also, like, it wouldn't be the first time that we would have bowl games not necessarily count towards record books, right? Because before the BCS era, like Barry Sanders' rushing record, for example, it does not take into account the bowl game that he participated in while he was at Oklahoma State prior to him going to the NFL. So, I mean, unless like you've only like grown up and watching ball like in the BCS era or these newer eras of college football, like it wouldn't be the first time. Me too. But like it wouldn't be the first time that we would have bowl games played, and it wouldn't necessarily count towards any kind of individual or team statistic at the end of the day, right? So I mean, like we still get to have the bowl games,
right? So
it would revert back to like the pre-BCS era.
Yeah, it would be the Snoop Dogg Las Vegas or Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, but played between two spring rosters in the spring. My thing is, at that point, is it even a bowl game? Is it even for anything? Like, you would still probably have a spring game, I would think, or some kind of spring event, spring practice. It's like, is there a ton of incentive to play against another team? I guess maybe money. It's once you start
maybe money, or like I'm thinking about like the guys in the trenches that get to hit somebody other than their own teammates.
I mean, that's fair. It's just hard because players want to play to win, and if there's nothing really to win, and right now it's just a practice. You're playing against your own guys. It's not about winning. It's about improving, showing what you've worked on in the off season. I mean, it's a good idea in theory. Logistically, you'd have to hash some stuff out, but I think that could be a feasible idea. For sure.
Yeah, it's how I would say bowl season, because if, like, it's either that or like bowl season like completely goes away. And if I had to choose, like I would probably at least like go towards the earlier where like the bowl games wouldn't count towards records or like any individual statistics, but we would still at least have them and we still get to enjoy them as fans.
And it would still be good for fans. You could have it, and more fans would probably show up to a bowl game in March between two incomplete rosters than, nothing. So it's definitely It's definitely a viable option. I think it could if we set it up right, we could definitely make that something that people look forward to and people and teams themselves would be excited to play in.
Yeah, because I mean, like right now, like with our current bowl system, I mean, we're technically like most of these bowl games are filled with incomplete rosters, anyways.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, it is
so-
technically just the spring roster before it goes through the transfer overhaul. So
yeah, like exactly. But except like when you play these bowl games in the spring, like you could actually look at the players on the field, like, hey, like these guys are actually going to be there in the fall. Because the one good thing that we did at least do, like in the last year and a half, is we went down from 2 transfer portals windows to 1 transfer portal window. So like at least like if it was we still had the 2 transfer portal windows, like bowl games of the spring like would be an absolute non-starter because I mean like you would be worried about like, oh, like you'd be able to scout players a lot better for the spring window.
The team you're playing against might take one of your players on the bus back with them to wherever their campus is. So
I'm surprised that doesn't happen in like bowl season now. Like there was an Iowa player that played in the bowl game against Vanderbilt. After the game, that Iowa player went into transfer portal and is playing for Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you literally can't make this up, brother.
Nope. We are in a bygone era of how college football used to be, and we're at a point. I talked about this with the Milligoats on their podcast. It's like we want to get somewhere,
Yeah.
How long can we kind of sit in this, gray area, middle ground, nowhere land where we're trying to figure out the future while trying to preserve the past while, not really fixing any of the problems that are facing us right now. It's like, can we just focus on one thing? Can we either revert it back to, which isn't going to happen, or, fix some of the problems that we're facing right now, fix some of the committee issues, fix some of the playoff issues, fix, transfer portal roster issues, and then just focus on that and leave it be? Or do we need to progress past that, which is the answer for, the people that have money invested in the sport? They want it to just speed up no matter what. So it's just it's always gonna feel like we're 10 steps behind where we should be. And unfortunately, that's going to be at the expense of some of the stuff we love, like bowl season.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like, and I know you kind of mentioned it, like just getting somewhere, like at the end of the day, because it feels at least like we're in like it's like watching a kid go through puberty. We know like the end product is we're gonna get hopefully like a decent like an adult out of it. But right now, like the kid in puberty like is going through some growing pains, both in the like the literal sense and also in the like the figurative sense as well. And I think we're experiencing that at fans right now. But if we can figure out like some of these things aside from the playoff format, because like before we address anything on the playoff format, I mean we got to take care of some other things in our sport as well, like such as like what we got going on with the transfer portal right now and how like we can make it more level so that G6 teams don't feel like they're farm teams,
right?
Because I know like a lot of teams in the G6 like they feel that kind of way right now where they're essentially a farm team for a power conference team. Like it's not Major League Baseball. Like I understand it's lower levels of conference, but like they're part of the same FBS at the end of the day. So how do we fix some of those issues before we even get into that other playoff stuff right now?
Right. And unfortunately it's going to take precedent. The thing that can make the most money tomorrow is going to take precedent over what, would make it more enjoyable for the common man, such as the CEO and myself.
Yeah, for sure. But hey, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up here for the mailbag. First and foremost, appreciate you guys so much for listening into the like the entire mailbag. And if you have like any questions that you want for a future mailbag, because there was like a couple questions that you guys asked that I couldn't get to tonight, trying to keep the show at a reasonable length, but I will have a future mailbag. So if you have a question for that future mailbag, either leave it in the live chat if you're listening live right now, or make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. And then I'll try my best to like read all your guys' comments. And then we'll have a mailbag in the future, because what else is there to do in the summertime besides rage bait people, apparently, depending on what you put out, right? But hey, Colton, really appreciate you like coming through like on the show here tonight. Like you have been missed dearly. Is there anything you want to say to the people? before we sign off here tonight, man?
Yeah, I mean, I miss being on the show. Unfortunate circumstances caused me to have to take a hiatus for a little bit, but hopefully through the summer I will be back and I'll be talking to you guys once or twice a week. So
Yeah. Yes, sir. We love to see it. But in the meantime, hey, this is Jake from College Football Red Zone getting ready to sign off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a good night.